are you up here? Get out of here. Let's go over some questions.
Yes,
What do we got? Throw one out.
32.
32. What's 32 say?
Secant squared of x times cosecant x all divided by secant squared of x plus cosecant squared of x.
Okay. So, you guys like this one? No? Okay. Ideas? Anybody? I'd probably switch sines and cosines, okay? And we can do that relatively easily. Ready? Watch this. So this bottom part, secant squared plus cosecant squared. So we got this big fraction bar, right? Secant squared on that bottom, I'm just going to do the bottom first, is really 1 over cosine squared. And cosecant squared is 1 over sine. That's a squared. Does that make sense? Now you can't just move to the top because of that plus. The numerator is going to become 1 over secant squared. I'm sorry, 1 over cosine squared, right? Times 1 over sine. And their multiplication there. Cool. And from our list of things, what's up, Sakina? Okay, so what can we do here to make this way simpler?
We can turn each of them into sine squared plus cosine squared over cos squared times sine squared, which is just 1 over cos squared times sine squared.
What?
Okay. So I think what Sakina's saying is we can get a common denominator in the denominator of this big fraction, right? But rather than go that route, which works, I'd rather just cancel out all these complex fractions. And we said to cancel out complex fractions, just multiply by the little denominators you don't want. So what do I need to multiply by to cancel out all these little denominators that are annoying me? Cosine squared and sine squared. So we multiply the top by cosine squared and sine squared. And the bottom by cosine squared and sine squared. Cool. And pay attention, up top it's all multiplication. So we're not going to distribute that. We're just going to multiply. On the bottom, though, it's addition. We have to distribute across addition. So when we do the top here, we're going to multiply both of these things over to here. And what's going to cancel? It's all cosine squared cancels right out. Because we're dividing by a cosine squared here. And we're multiplying by cosine squared. That just cancels. And then we have 1 over sine and a sine squared. What's that reduced to? Just sine. So the whole numerator just becomes sine of x. Okay? And in the denominator now, though, we've got to distribute. So hold on. Everyone with me on this, that we're not distributing to the top. I'm not multiplying both things to this and both things to this. No, multiplication doesn't distribute. Multiplication, you just multiply everything together. If things cancel, they cancel.
Wait, so how'd you multiply?
Okay, so let's take a step away from that for a second. Look, let's say I had to do 2 times 3 over 2 plus 3, and I'm multiplying by 5 over 5. Similar idea, right? But not trig functions. This bottom 5 is going to do 5 times 2 and 5 times 3, right? Which comes 10 plus 15. But this top 5 does not distribute to both of them. It just gets multiplied on the end. So what's 2 times 3 times 5? 30. That's all the numerator is. You're just multiplying straight across. Because it's all multiplication. You don't distribute when there's multiplication on the inside. But down here it's going to be really 10 plus 15, just 25. Now, with arithmetic, when it's numbers, we have the luxury of like doing this first, right? I can make that 6 over 5 and then multiply if I wanted to. Okay? With the trig stuff, we don't have that luxury, but it's the same kind of concept. So when I multiply both of these over to here, okay? Here, maybe we can write this out a little bit better. I'm multiplying sine squared times cosine squared to these two fractions, right? So all we're going to do is put a sine squared here and a cosine squared here. That's it. This is all over 1 technically, so we got to multiply all 4 of these things. But anything that's up top will cancel with anything that's down the bottom as long as it's all multiplication and division. So that's why the cosine squareds just cancel. And the sine will cancel out one of these signs. So the only thing left up there is 1 sine of x. Okay? But when I multiply both of those things to the denominator, because there's a plus in the middle, we've got to distribute. Remember I told you, like, the big part of this isn't, like, you're not going to see these trig things next year. But the big part of this is knowing like the math operations we can do here. When do we distribute? When do we not distribute? When do we get a common denominator? Things like that. So if I multiply both of these to this first fraction, what's going to cancel? The cosine squareds, leaving us with a sine squared. And if I multiply, so plus is still in the middle there, right? If I multiply both of them to the second fraction, the sine squareds cancel, leaving us with a cosine squared, and that's just sine of x over 1. I know, right? Super fun. Okay? So hang on.